Oh, interesting.
Okay, we are now being live streamed.
And I'm going to start letting people in then.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, Rita. Good morning. And hi, Anita. I'm sorry, Rita, we can't hear you.
I'm always early.
Well, nice to see you. It's nice to be early sometimes.
Well, sometimes, but I always am. It's just the way I am.
You get to settle in a little bit.
Yesterday didn't, so many things went wrong. I couldn't get in right away. And the service, I don't know why. So today what I did is go in to Zoom itself and then entered the meeting number and my passcode. That seemed to work better. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm admiring the painting that's behind you.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I'm a musician, so I mean, not formally. I'm a musician. Yeah.
You play music.
Yes.
Yes. I know I was inspired last night by Erwin to pick up some of my stringed instruments again. It's been a little while.
Right. Mine, I was woodwinds, clarinet, saxophone, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Are you all done, Anita?
Connie, would you make me a co-host, please?
Can't hear you. I'm saying that. Do I need to be what?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I cannot hear you.
Good morning, Arthur.
Good morning.
Arthur, are you able to mute and unmute yourself?
Yeah,
Can you try that?
sure.
Now you're muted. Now you're unmuted.
Yes.
Okay, that works. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Everyone's so quiet.
Good Yontif, good morning. Tani, if you could make me a co-host, I think that would be helpful.
Okay.
Thank you. I didn't think about it ahead of time. you, thank you.
You're welcome.
Arthur, shall we go ahead, do you think? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Ya la la la, ya la la la, ya ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la la la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la ya la la, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la la ya la la la. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are. Return to what you are. Return to where you are born and reborn again. Return again. Return again. Return to the home of your soul. Return again. Return again. Return to the home of your soul. Good Yontif, Shana Tova, and welcome to our Yom Kippur morning service for this year, and welcome to our returning again to be together for this important day. We're also, unfortunately, returning to being together in this unusual context of virtual connection, but I think even in this context, we can offer one another a sense of presence and a sense of mutual support as we move through the process of this day. My hope is that even on screen, we will gain strength and inspiration from one another's presence as we seek to culminate the process of turning and returning that began about 40 days ago at the beginning of the month of Elul. Thank you, and looking forward to spending the day with all of you. Arthur?
The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. These words of Robert Frost remind us of the driving force behind our actions, mortality. Yom Kippur is the day of the year, and we are confronted by our own mortality. When we realize that for each of us, there will be a day with no tomorrow, that there is much in our lives over which we have no control. Okay, and Robert Holtzman, will you please read item 1 on the supplement, or number 2 on the supplement by Rabbi Mailer?
On this day of atonement, we will not seek to escape responsibility for our own selves. We will not fault parents, siblings, or childhood traumas for the weakness we display, nor will we blame society, the economy, or our institutions for their failure to make us perfect. Judaism teaches us that we are free, not free to do anything we want, for we have obligations to others, nor free to be anyone we wish, for we are influenced by others, but free to choose a dozen times a day how we shall react to life's challenges, and in this small way to mold ourselves to become better than we are. On this day of atonement, we need to accept responsibility for our own lives. We cannot be perfect, continuously happy and successful, always attractive, popular, and healthy. We seek only to be better, to be a little kinder, braver, and more patient, to do a few more mitzvot, to share a few more simchas, to be at one with ourselves, our values, and our dreams, as well as being at one with our people, our traditions, and our God on this day of atonement.
Thank you. We now continue with the Kabbalistic Kavadah, which is on page 160, and page numbers are the same for the physical Siddur or the virtual Siddur. Transliteration is supplement number 3.
Ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la. Hineni mukhan umezuman לקבל עלי מצוות השכל, ואהבת לרעך כמוך, לרעך כמוך. I stand here ready in body and mind to take upon myself the mitzvah. You shall love your fellow human being as yourself. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la.
Let's turn to page 172 for Elohai Neshama, and the singer is Jade Pas Jensen. Is Jade here?
It looks like she isn't here.
Rabbi Steve?
Yep. Yeah, I'll do it. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. 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 I see Jade just arrived. Maybe she could do one more round of this.
Says Jade is still joining. It's taking her a while,
Uh-huh. Oh, okay. Okay. Then maybe, Arthur, we should
Go.
proceed. Okay.
Okay. Number 4 on the supplement, our Teshuvah reading. A controversy existed among the rabbis about who is closer to God, Jews who have not sinned or those who have sinned and done Teshuvah. But how close to God can one stand who has never been tempted and therefore never developed the brokenheartedness, honesty, and strength of will that true turning requires? The act of Teshuvah brings a self-awareness that can create intimate new links to the divine. We now go to Baruch She'amar, page 193, and Greg Selker will sing that.
Blessed is the one who spoke and all things came to be. Baruch Hu, blessed who created all in the beginning. Baruch Shema, blessed is the one who speaks and acts. Baruch Hu, blessed who determines and fulfills. Baruch Shema, blessed who deals kindly with the world. Baruch Shema, blessed who acts kindly toward all creatures. Baruch Shema, blessed who responds with good to those in awe. Baruch Hu, blessed who removes the dark and brings the light. Baruch Shema, blessed is the one who lives eternally. Baruch Hu, and lasts forever. Baruch Shema, blessed who delivers and redeems. Baruch Hu, blessed are you and your name. Baruch Shema, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shema, blessed are you, blessed is your name.
Thank you. And please turn to page 249. Rabbi Steve will chant the first 2 verses, Halloween Nafshi, and then Barbara and Barry Epstein will begin reading with the 3rd verse that begins with Trust Not.
Halleli nafshi et Adonai, Ahalela Adonai bechayai. Halleli nafshi et Adonai, Ahalela Adonai bechayai. Azamra Lelohei, Lelohai be'odi. Azamra Lelohai, Lelohai be'odi.
Trust not in human benefactors, in mortal beings who have no power to help. their spirit leaves, they go back to the ground on that day. All their thoughts are lost.
Happy is the one who has the God of Jacob for a help, whose hopeful thought is for the living one, our God.
The maker of the heavens and the earth, the seas, and all they contain.
The world's true guardian, who musters justice on behalf of the oppressed, gives bread to the hungry.
Advocate who sets the captive free.
The unseen one who makes the blind to see, supporting one who helps the lame to stand.
The watchful one who loves the just.
The bountiful protector of the stranger, and in whom the orphan and the widow find their strength.
By whom the evildoer's route is set awry.
The all-embracing reigns eternally. Your God, O Zion, from one generation to the next. Hallelujah.
Arthur, you're muted.
Rabbi Steve will now chant HaMelech on page 270, followed by Shochein Ad on the next page, Yishtabach on the one after, and then Chatzi Kaddish on the page after that. And I apologize, we do not have a transliteration for Yishtabach.
Yoshev al kisei ram v'nisa shochen ad marom v'kadosh shemo v'chatuv Ranenu tzadikim badonai, Laisharim navatila, Bifi yesharim titromam, Uvdivrei tzadikim titbarach, Uvilshon chasidim titkadash, Uvekerev Kedoshim Titalal Brachot vehodaot Me'ata ve'ad olam Baruch ata Adonai El melech gadol batishbachot El haodahot Adon haniflaot Habocher b'shirei zimra Melech el chei haolamim Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabba Bi'alma divra chirutei V'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon Uv'yomechon Uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael Bagala uv'izman kariv Ve'imeru Amen Yehi Shmei Rabba mivarach Le'alam u'lalmei almaya Yitbarach Yitbarach ve'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh V'yitahadar v'yitale V'yithalal Shmei dekudisha Brichu Le'ela, Le'ela, Mikol birchata v'shirata, Tushbechata, V'nechemata, Damiran bi'alma, Vimru, Amen.
Audrey Warner will now lead us in Illuminations by Ruth Brynn. This is the next item on the supplement.
I don't believe she's here. Nancy Rubel will read.
Okay.
Illuminations. I can begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world He created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life.
Thank you, Nancy. Okay, we now come to the formal invocation to prayer, page 277, the usual kavanah as we bless the whole line, followed by Baruch Hu. Please rise if you can do so comfortably.
As we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. As we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. And the blessing gives us strength and makes our vision clear, and the blessing gives us peace and the courage to dare as we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. Barechu et Adonai Hamvorach, Baruch Adonai Hamevorach, Leolam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hapoteach lanu sha'arei rachamim, umeir einei hamechakim leslichato, yotzer or uvorei choshech, ose shalom uvorei et hakol, or olam be'otzar chayim, orot me'ofel amar vayehi.
Please be seated. And Judy Harris will now lead us in the next item on the supplement, a UN Environmental Sabbath Program.
Great Spirit, give us hearts to understand, never to take from creation's beauty more than we give, never to destroy wantonly for the furtherance of greed, never to deny to give our hands for the building of earth's beauty, never to take from her what we cannot use. Give us hearts to understand that to destroy earth's music is to create confusion, that to wreck her appearance is to blind us to beauty. that to callously pollute her fragrance is to make a house of stench. That as we care for her, she will care for us. Amen.
Thank you, Judy. And we now come to the Chatimah, which is page 298, the last two lines in Hebrew or transliteration.
Or chadash al Tzion ta'ir v'niskechu lanu b'mheira le'oro baruch ata Adonai yotzer ha'meorot.
And Bob Truitt will now lead us in supplement number 7, some words from Isaiah.
As the Lord declares, or as the sun, as the rain or snow drops from heaven and returns not there, but soaks the earth and makes it bring forth vegetation, yielding seed for sowing and bread for eating. So is the word that issues from God's mouth. It does not come back to God unfulfilled, but performs what God proposes, achieves what God sent it to do.
Thank you. Now have the Ahava Rabbah chant on page 300.
Ya la la la, ya la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la, ya la la, ya la. Ahava Rabbah, Aftanu, Ahava Rabbah, Aftanu, Adonai, Eloheinu, Adonai, Eloheinu, Ahava Rabbah, Aftanu, Ahava Rabbah, Aftanu. We are about to chant the Shema, and every year on Yom Kippur, I feel it's important for us to recognize the slight shift in our communal practice and traditional practice of reciting the Shema, which is normally saying the first 6 lines out loud in a full-throated voice, and in our case, taking an entire breath for each of those words typically. The second line, though, we usually say in a bit more of in a softer voice and in a whisper. But on Yom Kippur, both of those lines are said in a full-throated way. And there are many interpretations for why this is so. The one that most speaks to me comes from Rabbi Art Green, and he draws from the Kabbalistic tradition. And he teaches that the Shema, the central message of this prayer, is really about the underlying unity and interconnectedness of all dimensions of life. Now, the first line, the first 6 words, affirm that unity in principle, but the second line actually affirms our capacity to experience it in our lives from our subjective places. Most of the year, we are hesitant about affirming that possibility because of all of the all of the complexity and challenge that we face on a day-to-day basis, we are hesitant to affirm it. But on Yom Kippur, because of the nature of this day, we also are willing to say in a full-throated way that yes, we can experience that sense of unity and interconnectedness.
Now have the Chatzamah v'Chavienu on page 302, chanted by Rabbi Steve, and then Rachel Williams will lead us in the Shema and Ve'ahavta.
V'havienu l'shalom me'arba kanfot ha'aretz v'tolichenu komimiut le'artzenu ki el poel yeshuot ata v'keraftanu L'shimcha hagadol sela be'emet lehodot lecha uliachercha be'ahava Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kavod Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavecha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha v'chayu hadivarim ha'ela asher anochi mitzavecha hayom vecha vishinantam necha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha uksharta yadecha v'chayu l'totafot b'neinecha uhavtam al mizuzot beitecha uvisharecha.
Thank you, Rachel. The next part of the Shema deals with choice. Choose life that you may and your descendants may live. And next reading, The Choice by Ruth Brynn, be read by Peter Emery, and that's Ruth Brynn's interpretation of choice.
See this day I set before you, blessing and curse. Are we free as the birds? Yes, and more free. For birds fly by the charts of instinct and make no choice in the pattern of their existence. Are we free as the angels? Yes, and more free. For angels, if they exist, live beyond evil and face no agonizing choices. Sometimes we seem like little children, round-eyed before a holiday table, permitted for once to reach for the sweetest cake. But we are neither children nor winged creatures. We are human beings. Freedom to choose is our definition, and ability to choose well is our portion of divinity. Gratefully, we thank you, who are the source of our freedom. Earnestly, we pray to you when we pace the dark corridors of decision. Let us make each choice with wisdom. Let us choose blessing and peace.
Thank you, Peter. And we continue with the Chatima on page 312, beginning with Lema'an Tizkaru.
Leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem lelohim Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem, Emet.
And we will continue. Michael Haggisfield will lead us in the Martin Luther King reading, which is number 10 or number 9 on the supplement. And after that, we'll go directly to Micha Mocha on page 318.
I say to you today, my friends, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with a new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring.
Micha mocha ba'elim Adonai, Micha mocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot, osef ele. Shira chadasha, shibechu geulim, leshimcha al sfatayam, yachad kulam, hodu v'himlichu v'amru, Adonai yimloch leolam, We have arrived at the Amidah. Practically, we will still do the, as an intro to the Amidah, we will complete this blessing on 318. But the Amidah typically is a time, whether on Shabbat or on a holiday, where we do some communal chanting together, and then we leave ourselves some time which is open for personal prayer, meditation, or reflection. And that will be the case today as well. But the Amidah today on Yom Kippur is perhaps the longest of the entire year. And so the balance, the ratio of kind of structured communal to structured individual time is not what it usually is. So I would like to encourage people. I know on Zoom this may sound like unnecessary or even unusual, suggestion, but I want to encourage people that if you feel like you've reached a point where you could use some time for personal reflection or meditation, and we happen to be in the middle of a communal chant, I encourage you to turn your volume down and spend, go with your heart and your instincts and spend that time exploring the idea or the feeling that may be arising in the moment. Do not feel constrained by what happens to be going on as we proceed in a more formal sense. Arthur?
In the words of the tradition of Unatana Tokef prayer, all of humanity is founded on dust. Of dust they are made, and to dust they return. As long as they live, they strive for their bread. Like vessels of clay, they can break. Like grass, they can wither. Like flowers, they fade. Like shadows, they pass. Like clouds, they are emptied. Like wind, their strength is exhausted. There is much over which we have no control, but we do have choices to make, and teshuvah, tefillah, and tzedakah can enable us to better respond to whatever befalls us. Teshuvah, usually translated as repentance, means turning from sin to God or godliness. Tefillah, usually translated as prayer, derives from Hebrew meaning to judge oneself. The surprising word origin provides insight into the purpose of Jewish prayer. The most important part of any Jewish prayer is the introspection it provides, the moment that we spend looking inside ourselves, seeing our role in the universe and our relationship to the divine. Tzedakah, usually translated as charity, means justice or righteousness, do what is right. Giving to the poor is only part of tzedakah. The Torah says, tzedek, tzedek, tirdaf, justice, justice shall you pursue. We will hear more about tzedakah as well as the purpose of today's fast in the Haftarah from Isaiah. Okay, we'll now finish the preparations for the Amidah with Shor Yisrael, and then go directly into the first and second blessings together of the Amidah. And they are on page 324.
Sur Yisrael, Kuma be'ezrat Yisrael, Ufdechinu mecha Yehuda ve'Yisrael, Go aleinu Adonai tzvaot shemo kadosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Adonai sifatai tiftach, Ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai sifatai tiftach, Ufi yagid tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Ve'Elohei Avoteinu ve'Imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el, Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei hakol, V'zocher chasdei avot v'imot, U'mevi geula livnei v'neihem, L'man shemo be'ahava. Zochreinu lechaim, Melech hafetz b'chaim, Lemancha Elohim Chaim, Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen, Baruch Ata Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ve'ezrat Sarah. Ata Gibor Leolam Adonai, Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye Kol Chai Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim, Verofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha, Baal Givurot, Umidome Lach, Melech Memit, Umchaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, Michamocha, Av Harachamim, Zocher Yitzurav, Lechaim Berachamim, V'ne'eman ata L'chayot kol chai, Baruch Ata Adonai, Mechaye kol chai.
Our service continues with the Untitled prayer on page 347.
Unetane tokef Kedushat hayom, Ki hu nora ve'ayom, Uvo tinaseh malchutecha, V'yikon bechesed kisecha, V'teshev alav bemet. Emet. Ki ata hu dayan umochiach, Ve'yodea va'ed, Ve'chotem, Ve'sofer umoneh, Ve'tiskor kol hanishkachot, Ve'tiftach et sefer hazichronot, Ume'elav yikareh, Ve'chotem yad kol adam bo.
Okay, next, do the alternative or interpretive version of Unatana Tokef, which is number 10 on the supplement.
B'rosh Hashanah yikatevun, Uvyom tzom kippur yechatemun, yecha temun.
On Rosh Hashanah it is written, on Yom Kippur it is sealed, that this year people will live and die, some more gently than others, and nothing lives forever.
B'rosh Hashanah yikatevun, yikatevun. Uvyom tzom kippur yechatemun, yechatemun.
In the midst of overwhelming forces of life, nature and humankind, we still write our own book of life, and our actions are the words in it. And the stages of our lives are chapters, and nothing goes unrecorded ever. Every deed counts, everything you do matters. And we never know what act or word will leave an impression or tip the scale. So if not now, then when?
B'rosh Hashanah yikatevun, yikatevun. Uvyom tzom kippur yechatemun, yechatemun.
For the things that we can change, there is teshuvah, realignment. For the things we cannot change, there is tefillah, prayer. For the help we can give, there is tzedakah, justice. Together, let us write a beautiful book of life for the Holy One to read. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be so.
B'rosh Hashanah yikatevun, yikatevun. Uvyom tzom kippur yechatemun, yechatemun. Uteshuvah, utefillah, utzedakah, ma'avirin et roa hagezerah.
Okay, and now we continue with the Kedusha on page 403.
Naritzecha v'nakdishecha kesod siach sarfei kodesh hamakdishim shimcha bakodesh kakatuv yad neviyecha v'kara ze el ze v'amar kadosh 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 Adonai Tzivaot Meloch Ol Haaretz Kivodo Kivodo Malei Olam Mishartav Shoalim Ze Lazeh Aye Mekom Kivodo Leumatam Baruch Yomeru Baruch Kevod Adonai Mimkomo Hu Yifen Berachamim V'yachon Am HaMyachadim Shemo Erev Avoker B'chol Yom Tamid Pa'amayim Be'ahava Shema Omrim Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Hu Eloheinu Hu Avinu Hu Malkeinu Hu Moshienu V'hu yashmienu barachamav shenit la'enei kol chai, liot lachem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Adir adirenu Adonai Adonenu. Ma'adir shimcha bechol haaretz. V'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz. Bayom hahu yi Adonai echad u'shmo echad. Uvdivrei kodshecha katuv lemor. Yimloch Adonai leolam. Elohayich Tzion. Lidor vador. Hallelujah. Lidor vador nagid godlecha. Ulenetzach netzachim kedusharcha nakdish. V'shivchacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush leolam va'ed. Ki el melech gadol v'kadosh atah.
Rabbi Steve will next chant Shema Kolenu, first 6 lines in Hebrew on page 418.
Shema Kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachem aleinu, v'kabel barachamim uv'ratzon, et tefilatenu. Hashivenu Adonai elecha, v'nashuva. Chadesh yameinu kekedem. Al tashlichenu milfanecha, v'ruach kodshecha al tikach mimenu. Al tashlichenu leid zigna, kichlot kochenu al ta'azvenu. Al ta'azvenu Adonai Eloheinu, al tirchak mimenu.
We now come to the confessional part of the service, and we begin with David Steinway reading on page 421. You're muted.
We are strong-willed and stubborn, but you are merciful and gracious. We are stiff-necked, but you are slow to anger. We are full of error, but you are full of mercy. Our days are like a passing shadow, but you are one whose years shall never end. Our God, our ancients' God, may our prayer come before you. Hide not from our supplication, for we are not so insolent and stubborn as to say, here in your presence, Holy One, God of our fathers and our mothers, we are righteous and we have not sinned. For indeed, we have sinned.
Thank you. We will now have some silent time for personal reflection. You also might consider some of the supplementary readings at the end of the official supplement or versions of Unatana Tokef in the Machzor. And then we'll rejoin with Ashamnu on page 424, sung by Greg Selker and Rabbi Steve.
Ya la 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 ya la ya la ya la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 Ashamnu
Ashamnu.
Bagadnu
Bagadnu.
Gazalnu
Gazalnu.
Dibanu Dofi
Ibanu Dofi.
Ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 Hevinu
Hevinu.
Vehir Shanu
Vehir Shanu.
Zadnu
Zadnu.
Chamasnu
Kamasnu.
Tafalnu Shaker
Apalnu Shaker.
Ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 Yatsnura
Yatsnura.
Hizavnu
Izavnu.
Latnu
Latnu.
Maradnu
Radnu.
Niatsnu
Tiatnu,
Sararnu,
Sararnu,
Avinu,
Avinu,
Pashanu,
Ashanu,
Sararnu,
Sararnu,
Kishinu Oref,
Yishinu Oref,
Ya la 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 la, Ya la 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 la, Ya la 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 la, Rashanu,
Rashanu,
Shichatnu,
Shichatnu,
Tiavnu,
Tiavnu,
Ta'inu,
Ainu,
Titanu,
Itanu,
Ya la 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 la, Ya la 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 la, Ya la 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 la.
Thank you, Greg. And David Kahn will now lead us in number 11 on the supplement on justice for all children.
Oh God, forgive our rich nation where small babies die of cold quite legally. Oh God, forgive our rich nation where toddlers and school children die from guns sold quite legally. Oh God, forgive our rich nation that lets children be the poorest group of citizens quite legally. Oh God, forgive our rich nation that lets the rich continue to get more at the expense of the poor quite legally. Oh God, forgive our rich nation, which thinks security rests in missiles and not mothers, and in bombs rather than in babies. Oh God, forgive our rich nation for not giving you sufficient thanks by giving others their daily bread. Oh God, help us never to confuse what is quite legal with what is just and right in your sight.
Thank you, David. We now come to HaLev on page 429, and immediately after, I'll do a reading on page 433.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, in the closing of the heart, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha, without knowing what we do. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, whether open or concealed, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha, knowingly and by deceit. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through the prompting of the heart, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through the influence of others. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, whether by intention or mistake, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha, by the hand of violence. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through our foolishness of speech, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through an evil inclination. Ve'al kulam Eloah selichot, selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu. Ve'al kulam Eloah slichot, selach lanu mechalanu, selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, in the palming of a bribe. Ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha, by expressions of contempt. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through misuse of food and drink. Ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha, by our avarice and greed. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through offensive gaze. Ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through a condescending glance. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, by our quickness to oppose. Ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha, by deception of a friend. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, by unwillingness to change. Ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha, by running to embrace an evil act. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, by our groundless hatred. Ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha, in the giving of false pledges. Ve'al kulam Eloah selichot, selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu. Ve'al kulam Eloah selichot, selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu.
And for mitzvot that call on us to act, and for mitzvot that bid us not to act, for mitzvot that say, arise and do, and for mitzvot that do not say, arise and do, for those that are made known to us and those that are not known to us. Those that are known to us are things we have acknowledged and confessed before you, but those that are not known to us are things revealed and known only to you. Okay, and now we'll conclude the Amidah with Sim Shalom on page 450.
Sim shalom, sim shalom, sim shalom, tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael amecha. Sim shalom, sim shalom, sim shalom, tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu ve'al kol ha'amim. Sim shalom, sim shalom, sim shalom, tova uvracha.
Avinu Malkeinu follows on page 452.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu va'anenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu va'anenu, ki ein banu masim. Aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed ve'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, we have done wrong in your presence. Avinu Malkeinu, we have no one to rule over us but you. Avinu Malkeinu, help us for the honor of your name. Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a good year. Avinu Malkeinu, nullify the plans of any who may seek to do us harm. Avinu Malkeinu, grant forgiveness and atonement for all of our transgressions. Avinu Malkeinu, help us to return wholeheartedly into your presence. Avinu Malkeinu, send thorough healing to all those who ail. Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us for good fortune in the book of life. Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in the book of redemption and salvation. Avinu Malkeinu, chonenu va'anenu. Avinu Malkeinu, chonenu va'anenu, ki ein banu masim. Aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed ve'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in the book of sustenance and livelihood. Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in the book of merit. Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in the book of forgiveness and atonement. Avinu Malkeinu, let grow for us the tree of imminent redemption. Avinu Malkeinu, remember us though we are made of dust. Avinu Malkeinu, be merciful to us and to all our offspring. Avinu Malkeinu, act in memory of all those who have been killed while honoring your name. Avinu Malkeinu, act in honor of your great and mighty awe-inspiring name, which has been called out over us for our protection. Avinu Malkeinu, chonenu va'anenu. Avinu Malkeinu, chonenu va'anenu, ki ein banu masim. Aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed ve'hoshienu. Please be seated if you are standing. We have come to the Torah service. And we're structuring today's Torah service mostly as we have over the course of this past year when we've been on Zoom. We won't be reading directly from the Torah scroll today, but we will have a section chanted for us by Rabbi Rachel Davidson. I'm going to give a brief summary of the Torah and Haftarah portions. We'll have the alternative blessings and the chanting of the section of the Torah portion. Then we'll hear translations of the Torah reading and the Haftarah. I'll offer a mishaberach, a blessing that grows out of the themes of the Torah portions, and then we'll conclude with a prayer for healing and a prayer for peace and Eitz Chaim Hi. So, the Torah portion for today, as we discussed 10 days ago on Rosh Hashanah, we tend to move back and forth between the traditional reading and the alternative that is in our High Holy Day prayer book, and this year is a traditional reading year. And the traditional Torah reading for Yom Kippur is a description of the biblical Yom Kippur and the highly dramatic temple-based ritual where the sins of the community are conveyed to 2 goats by the high priest. 1 goat is sent into the wilderness and 1 is slaughtered, and the sins of the community are in that way purged from the community. So it's a very highly ritually oriented Torah portion. And interestingly, and I think helpfully, the rabbis chose for the Haftarah, or the prophetic reading to pair with this Torah portion, I'm not going to get into any details, but basically it goes to the opposite end of the spectrum and focuses on the ethical and moral dimensions of religious life, even to the point of warning people that ritual alone is absolutely unacceptable, and that in the absence of ethical and moral commitments, ritual accomplishes very little, if anything. So I think in the context of today's service of Yom Kippur, this tension between ritual and moral, ethical life in religious practice and religious identity. And the 2 readings themselves lift up this potential tension that exists between them, which is absolutely correct. And we can point to many examples of places where, especially where ritual is valued over ethics and morals, and how that undermines the entire system. On the other hand, I would also like to suggest that optimally, these 2 dimensions of our religious lives are constructively compatible and complementary, and that when we face particularly challenging ethical and moral situations, which we do certainly in our country today and in our world, we need the sustenance that ritual practice can provide for us so that we can continue to be engaged with the process of working to transform those very difficult and painful ritual and moral problems that we face. So when we get to the blessing, the mishaberach for today, my intention, my kavanah, is that this idea of the nourishment of ritual will be something that will play a positive role and sustain us for the long-term efforts that we have to make to move our world from where we are, from where it needs to be, to where it needs to be. So you can find the alternative blessings and the Torah reading itself on the supplement. We're at number 13. All the vast majority of the the texts that we'll be using for the Torah service are underneath this category of supplement number 13. So from your muted space, I ask you to join me in chanting the Aramaic blessing before the Torah reading, and then we will hear from Rabbi Rachel chanting from Leviticus 16, and then we'll join together in the English blessing after she's concluded. Yehi Rava Kodamach Detiftach Libi Beoraita Vitashli Mishalin Delibi Veliba Dechol Amach Yisrael Litavu Lechayin Velishlam. Amen.
Vayedaber Adonai el Moshe acharei mot shnei bnei Aharon bekorbatam lifnei Adonai veyamutu. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe daber el Aharon achicha ve'al yavo v'chol et el hakodesh mibet laparochet al pnei hakaporet asher al ha'aron v'lo yamut ki be'anan era'eh al hakaporet v'zot yavo Aharon el hakodesh Befar ben bakar lechatat ve'ayil le'olah ketonet bad kodesh yilbash umechnasei vad yihu al basaro vavnet bad yachor uvemitznefet bad yitznov bigdei kodesh hem brachatz b'mayim et basaro ulvesham Ume'et adat v'nei Yisrael yikach shne sirei izim lechatat v'ayil echad le'olah v'hikriv Aharon et par hachatat asher lo v'chiper be'ado uve'ad beito.
Yeshakach, Rabbi Rachel, thank you for the beautiful chanting. I invite everyone to please join me in the blessing after the reading in English. May it come to be that my heart is opened through Torah, and may the yearnings of my heart and the hearts of all people be fulfilled for goodness, for life, for peace, and let us say, Amen. I'd now like to invite Kevin Weidenbaum to do the reading in English of the Torah portion.
The Lord spoke to Moses after the death of the two sons of Aaron, who died when they drew too close to the presence of the Lord. The Lord said to Moses, "Tell your brother Aaron that he is not to come at will into the shrine behind the curtain, in front of the cover that is upon the ark, lest he die. For I appear in the cloud over the cover. Thus only shall Aaron enter the shrine with a bull of the herd for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. He shall be dressed in a sacral linen tunic with linen breeches next to his flesh, and be girt with a linen sash, and he shall wear a linen turban. They are sacral vestments. He shall bathe his body in water and then put them on. And from the Israelite community he shall take 2 he-goats for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. Aaron is to offer his own bull of sin offering to make expiation for himself and for his household."
Thank you very much, Kevin. And now we'll turn to the reading from the prophets from the Haftarah. Arthur Lieberman will be doing that for us.
And this is starting with line 7. Why, when we fasted, did you not see it? Our souls we have afflicted, Do you not know? Behold, while you are fasting, you engage in business, and your workers you continue to oppress. Behold, you fast in strife and quarreling, and with a meanly clenched fist you strike. Today you do not fast in such a way as to make your voice heard on high. Is this the kind of fast I delight in, a fast merely to deprive one's body? Is it bowing the head like the willows, or reclining in sackcloth and ash? Do you call that a fast, a day in which the Holy One delights? Is not the fast that I desire, the unlocking of the chains of wickedness, the loosening of exploitation, the freeing of all those oppressed, the breaking of the yoke of servitude? Is it not the sharing of your bread with those who starve, the bringing of the wretched poor into your house, or clothing someone you see who is naked, and not hiding from your kin in their need? Then shall your light burst forth like the dawn, your waters of healing soon flourish again, your righteousness will travel before you, and the glory of the Almighty will compass you. Then will you call the Eternal One, then when you call, the Eternal One will answer. You will cry out, God will respond, Hineni, here I am. The word Hineni is used in the Tanakh in not that many places, and usually in very important and memorable ones. It is first used during the story of the binding of Isaac, and then used by Moses at the burning bush. So this is a very important promise.
Thank you so much, Arthur. We're going to proceed with a special blessing, a Yom Kippur blessing for all of us who are here at this service and other members of our community who may not be with us at this very moment. Mishaberach avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless all of us who have come together today to focus on the process of returning to our deepest and truest and best selves. May we all be blessed with a sense of clarity regarding the origin and functioning of the structural and historical forces that are the source of many of our society's most pressing contemporary challenges, most especially those of racial injustice and the global climate crisis. May we be blessed with the understanding that we still have, in present circumstances, a window of opportunity of unknown duration, which contains the potential to move forward towards transforming these heretofore change-resistant issues in unprecedented ways. And may we be blessed with the awareness of the importance of finding practices in our lives that nourish us and sustain us for the long journey of transformation that lies ahead of us. May we be blessed with the understanding of the importance of joining together into larger collective movements in order to effect the change that currently exists in potential. And may we be blessed with the courage and determination to push beyond the boundaries of our own comfort zones in order to seize this unique and pressing opportunity, to add our support to these movements for structural change, and to truly put our world on a path towards a future of sustainability, justice, peace, and mutual cooperation. And together let us say, Amen. Amen. We're going to continue now with the prayer for healing. We are going to do this in the same way we did last night. We're going to ask anyone who has a name that they'd like to share to type that name into the chat. We will not be reading all the names out loud this morning, but we will be giving everyone on the Zoom in the Zoom community a chance to read the names that are being typed in. So if you would like to type in your own name or the name of someone that you are thinking of today for healing, let's take a minute for that to happen. If it's only yourself that you would like to be included, the other option is to electronically raise your hand, which for most of us is found at the bottom of the Zoom screen under the reactions button. You can raise your hand as a signal that you would like to be included, and then we will have a visual sense of who among those who are in attendance today would specifically like themselves to be included. I will chant an igun as people are typing names in to the chat. Yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, ya la lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, ya la lai, yai lai lai lai. Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, ya la lai lai lai. Yai lai, yai lai, yai lai, yai lai lai lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Lai la la lai 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 lai. Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, ya la lai. Lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai la la lai lai lai, yai lai yai la la lai, ya la lai, ya la lai lai, ya la lai 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 lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, ya la lai, lai 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 lai. Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, ya la lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, ya la lai lai lai, yai lai, yai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai. Ya la 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 la, ya la la ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la ya la la la, ya la la ya la 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 la. So we gather together and focus our prayers and thoughts on sending strength and healing to everyone whose name was typed in the chat, to everyone who is raising their hand in this gathering, and also to those who may not be, we may not be having our attention explicitly called towards this morning. And again, we find the Misha Berach for healing, the words for that are towards the end of the Torah Service section of the supplement. Misha Berach Avotenu Mikor HaBracha Limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mikor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. I will now offer a brief excerpt of my sermon for this Yom Kippur. I will share what I said at the beginning of the pre-recording that I made yesterday of this this text that I had been working for about a week on my Yom Kippur sermon, and I thought I was almost finished. And then the day before Yom Kippur, I had this realization that everything I had written was really just kind of circling the periphery of what was really in my heart. And so I decided I needed to throw away what I had written, and I spent that night rewriting the sermon, and I'll share with you the beginning of what I came up with. I do think it's a little more directly on target to what I was attempting to speak to. In her most recent and widely acclaimed book, Caste, Pulitzer Prize-winning author Isabel Wilkerson utilizes the metaphor of an old house to describe the challenges we face as a nation in attempting to recognize and redress our collective historical transgressions against the African American, Native American, and other minority communities. She writes, "America is an old house. Wind, flood, drought, and human upheavals batter a structure that is already fighting whatever flaws were left unattended in the original foundation. When you live in an old house, you may not want to go into the basement after a storm to see what the rains have wrought. Choose not to look, however, at your own peril. The owner of an old house knows that whatever you are ignoring will never go away. Whatever is lurking will fester whether you choose to look or not. Ignorance is no protection from the consequences of inaction. Whatever you are wishing away will gnaw at you until you gather the courage to face what you would rather not see." This is a powerful and disturbing word picture painted by Wilkerson of the state of our nation. And every time I read it, it stops me in my tracks. Because it is not how I want to image the nature of the culture and the country in which we live. I want to think of America as strong and principled and standing for values in the world that I'm proud of. I recognize that part of what supports my ability to lean into the more affirming image of America are the many positive experiences I have accumulated over the course of my life as a white citizen of this country. But even more than that, it is my experience as a Jewish American and my understanding of the Jewish people's experience throughout our centuries-long presence here that undergirds my positive bias. For the American Jewish community, this country has been, for the most part, a godsend and a true platform for growth and accomplishment. Jewish people have found in this country a level of acceptance, integration, safety, and freedom not even dreamed of in other parts of the world outside of Israel. At the same time, we, in the mostly white Ashkenazic Jewish community, have been aware that this country has failed miserably to live up to its promise for other minority communities, most especially African Americans and Native Americans. We have empathized with the economic and political barriers faced by these communities and with the violence and vulnerability that they have had to contend with, because we ourselves, at many points in our history, have been in the very same situation. But that has not been the case in the context of our American experience. In America, the immigrant Jewish community from Eastern and Central Europe was eventually allowed into the club of whiteness, and we have benefited enormously from that shift in identity. Truly, this country has been both a land of opportunity for some, as well as a land of subjugation for others. If you would like to hear the rest of that sermon, you can find it on the HaLev YouTube channel, or I think it'll also be available at some point on our homepage, on our website homepage as well. So with that, we are going to turn to the prayer for peace that is found in your supplement that Arthur Lieberman is going to read.
Prayer for the World by Alan Patton. O Lord, open my eyes that I may see the needs of others. Open my ears that I may hear their cries. Open my heart so that they need not be without succor. Let me not be afraid to defend the weak because of the anger of the strong, nor afraid to defend the poor because of the anger of the rich. Show me where love and hope and faith are needed, and use me to bring it to them in those places. And so open my eyes and my ears that I may this coming day be able to do some work of peace for thee. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Arthur. We'll conclude on page 606 of the Machzor with Eitz Chaim Hi. Eitz Chaim Hi lama chazikim ba v'tom cheha meushar diracheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva chadesh Chadesh Yameinu, Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. Proceed now to the conclusion, and Arthur will lead us through that.
Sorry, stay muted.
That's it.
So, Elena on page 1201, followed by, I'll read the bottom darash on page 1205, and we'll conclude Elena there.
We invite people to rise if you're comfortable doing so. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shenatan lanu torat emet, v'chaye olam nata betochenu, va'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
It is not the seeking after God that divides, but the claim to have found God and to have discovered the only proper way of obeying God and communing with God.
Kakatuv b'toratecha, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yiyeh Adonai echad u'shemo Shemo, Ushemo Echad, Ushemo Echad.
Kaddish is found on page 1216. If you are saying Kaddish, please unmute and raise your hand electronically, and I'll call on you to say, if you wish, name of the person you're saying Kaddish for. Robin Holzman?
My father, Bob Holtzman.
Just looking down several screens.
Yeah, I know that there are other people. Oh yeah, Hallie and Benjamin have their hand up.
Okay.
My mother, Mary Barnett.
And Connie has her hand up.
Okay, thank you.
My mother, Leah Bat Bela V'Menashe.
Okay, I'm just taking another look. Craig, is that you?
Yeah, for some reason I can't figure out how to raise my hand electronically. Sorry. But my father, Eugene Selker, and my mother, Phyllis Selker.
Okay, and is there anyone else who I missed?
Barry and Barbara.
Okay. Barry
My
and Barbara.
grandfather, Solomon Epstein.
And Rebecca German.
My mother, Pearl German.
Anyone else? Okay, so we'll recite Kaddish, and as usual, HaLev, I'll ask those who are not to join in and stay muted at Yehei Shema Rabbah. And those who are saying Kaddish, please unmute, just say it together.
Looks like Nancy Hecht also has a name.
Nancy Hecht also?
Yes, my grandmother, Ida Golden.
Yitkadal.
Yitz Kadash Shemei Rabbah V'alma Divrach Yerute V'yamlich Malchute B'chayechon Uvyomechon Uvchaye Dechol Beit Yisrael Bagala Uvizman Kari V'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'alam U'la'almei Almaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar, v'yitale, v'yitalal, shmei tehudsha, b'richu. Le'ela, le'ela, mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran v'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru, amen. May the one who makes peace in the heavens make peace for us, for all Israel, and for all who dwell on earth. And together let us say, amen.
And Lila Hunt will now give us some announcements.
You get herself unmuted, she will.
Okay.
Okay. First, a welcome to everybody who's joining us here today. Welcome to those of you who are HaLev members and those of you who are guests, to those of you who are joining us for the first time this high holiday season, and to those familiar folks who return to spend the high holidays with us year after year. Today, thank you to our service leaders, Rabbi Steve and Arthur Lieberman, and thanks to our laner, Rabbi Rachel, and to all the readers and singers who enriched our morning with their voices and faces. A special thanks to everyone who left their video feeds on this morning. It was really nice to see your faces. Just a special shout out to Connie Friedman, who's the chair of the RPC, to Robin Holtzman, who coordinated the Zoom hosts, and to Audrey Warner, who coordinated all the readers for this whole high holiday service period. So If you stay tuned here, we'll be, you'll see at 11:15, the alternative service will start. And for live streamers, we'll pause there and resume with our Yizkor and Nila services at 6:15. If you're registered to join us on Zoom, you can remain here or return for the Avodah service at 12:30 or any of the other programming that's going to go on through the afternoon.
5:30 it was.
Kol HaLev members who registered for in-person access, check your email for details. Thank you. Did I
Thanks,
leave
Lila.
anything else, Steve?
No, I think that covers everything. Thank you. Thank you very much, Lila.
Our service will conclude with the last item on the supplement, an interpreted English version of Avinu Malkeinu by Rabbi Bert Jacobson.
O Mother and Father of life, please hear us and give us your grace. Our guide deep within us, O hear us and give us compassion and mercy and peace. O guide us through your grace, justice and mercy to all. O guide us and teach us, grant justice and mercy, we shall be free once again. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Good Yontif, Tzom Kal, an easy fast for those who are fasting. A productive or fruitful fast also is a nice kavanah to hold, and look forward to seeing many of you in a few minutes as our alternative Yom Kippur morning service will be starting at 11:15. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Good Yontif. I think we've got just another minute or so before we start officially. I hope everyone's holiday process is unfolding in a meaningful way, and that the HaLev programming that you've been a part of has supported that process. Well, Dick, we could start right on time. I don't know if there might be. We could either give it a minute or we could start.
I think we could start. I know we have readers. One Bellamy is on a plane because her plane from New York was canceled yesterday. So, but other than that, I think we could go ahead and start.
You know what, Dick? I think I saw Bellamy signed in to this service actually. I could be wrong. But I thought I saw at least.
This is Robin. Bellamy is signed in.
Oh, great. Okay. All right.
All
well,
right.
Good. Then
we okay. All right. I'll go ahead and start the Nigun, and then we're off. Okay. Yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai lai ya la lai yai lai la 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 lai yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai lai ya la lai 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 la 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 lai ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 la.
Thanks, Steve. Shana Tova, and welcome everyone to the Yom Kippur Alternative Service. I appreciate the opportunity that I've had to develop and lead this service, and hope people find it meaningful and that it speaks to them. I want to thank Rabbi Steve for his help and support, and Art Biajanti for guidance, and obviously to all the people who are helping to run the show today. It's so much work. We'll have two opportunities to share reflections during the service. These can be thoughts or feelings that arise from the readings or just from the day. If you'd like to share at the time of you see it in the booklet, please raise your hand. Use the raise a hand icon in Zoom so that we can find you and unmute you when it comes to the time. We'll start with opening the heart. At the year's turn, in the days between, we step away from what we know. Wall and window, roof and road, into the spaces we cannot yet name. Cloud and sky,
cloud, and wings. Slowly, the edges begin to yield, the hard places soften. Wind and clover, reed and river, the gate to forgiveness opens. I want to make a few comments. It began for us, for Donna and me, while we were relaxing or trying to relax on a vacation at Paso Grill Beach by St. Petersburg, Florida. The days of bright sun and blue sky grew clouded by news of a novel virus that was spreading among us. It was early March 2020, and by the end of our 7-day stay, we couldn't wait to get home. With little guidance from leaders and still working in an independent practice, which is now part of university hospitals, my practice partner and I struggled with how to continue to care for our patients and ensure that we protected our staff and us, and by protecting us, our families to whom we came home every night. Thus began what feels to me today like the longest fast of our lives. A fast, you might ask? We've been able to eat, go about our lives, work. I do realize how, in relation to so many who have suffered during this pandemic, we've been so lucky and blessed. But we've all had our lives disrupted, routines changed, face-to-face visits canceled. We've all experienced life events, births, weddings, bar and bat mitzvahs, funerals, in a different, and let's admit it, less satisfying and more isolated way. So it feels like we've been on a long fast. Perhaps another way to look at it is as a year of Shabbat, Shabbaton. Shabbat, Yom Kippur, these are days of routine change when we choose to step back from the world. On Shabbat, we rest, eat a festive meal, pray, reflect on the past week, and look forward to the next. Study, meditate. In Yom Kippur, we reflect on the past year and how we might approach the new year differently. This is a choice many of us make to protect some time in our lives for these activities, which are meant to nourish, reinvigorate, and allow us to grow. But the pandemic as a fast, as a Shabbat, Shabbaton, has not been by choice. We were forced to make changes. We were forced to experience living differently. So on this Yom Kippur, I think we can acknowledge, look back and see how we got through this, even as it's not over. We all had hope at the beginning of the summer, and even with the Delta variant, I think we can still have hope. During the Day of Atonement, one reads that one who atones but then plans to resume the same behavior for which he or she atones has not really atoned. To me, it feels Pollyannish to say what an opportunity these last 18 months have been. We deserve to and must acknowledge how disrupted our lives have been and the stress, loss, and sadness that we have experienced. But we have lived through them. They were given to us. Some days we took this opportunity. We found what a wealth of nature our city has in its metro parks. We found out how much we could live without going to a restaurant. We saw about how having friends over for an outdoor dinner could be so nourishing. Other days we spent lamenting our fate. All natural responses. Let's acknowledge the difficulties of these times, take what we've learned during the pandemic, learn how we behaved, look at how we behaved and survived, both the adaptive and the overreactive, and create new lives for ourselves as we live through and emerge from the pandemic. Phyllis Maris will now read the next two readings.
Just as the hand held before the eye can hide the tallest mountain, so the routine of everyday life can keep us from seeing the vast radiance and the secret wonders that fill the world. 2 truths in your pocket and take them out according to the need of the moment. Let one be, for my sake was the world created, and the other, I am but dust and ashes.
Thank you, Phyllis. Happy Wallach will read now.
I'm reading about awe. Awe is an intuition for the creaturely dignity of all things and their preciousness to God. A realization that things not only are what they are, but also stand, however remotely, for something absolute. Awe is a sense for the transcendent, for the reference everywhere to God who is beyond all things. Awe enables us to perceive in the world intimations of the divine, to sense in small things the beginning of infinite significance, to sense the ultimate in the common and the simple, to feel in the rush of the passing the stillness of the eternal.
Thank you. Next, Mimi Plevenfaust will read.
Blessing of renewal. Springs and rivers gush forth, flowing between the hills. Psalms 104:10. We enter the gates, grateful for the blessing of renewal. Let us bless the flow of life that revives us, sustains us, and brings us to this time. And the next poem is Turning the Heart. Like the morning star whose light bursts forth, so Israel's redemption will come, bit by bit at first, bigger and bigger as it makes its way. Talmud. Slow spin of earth against sky, imperceptible, yet making the days. One stone tossed into the current, and the river ever so slightly rising.
Thank you. Next, Maxine Cooper Brand will read about forgiveness. You're muted, Maxine. Right. Okay. Oh, you're muted again.
There we
Now
go.
you're not.
So whatever forgiveness is, and I do think it is a personal virtue as well as a social virtue, it's certainly not something you do for your own pleasure or your own health. The person doing the forgiving isn't getting a lot of bang for their buck. The person who benefits way out of proportion to what they've done is the offender. But that raises an important point. Forgiveness is not deserved by definition. It's not something somebody earns. It's something that's freely given. You give it to someone for lots of reasons, for reasons of personal virtue, for reasons of mercy, and concern for the offender, which is a strange thing to imagine in our day and age.
Thank you. Our next reading will be by Jean Miller.
Confession. Stand at the roads and consider, look into the paths of the past, see which is the road of goodness, walk it and find tranquility. In the mirror of our eyes, the other is reflected. In the eyes of the other, ourselves. We look outward, inward, see how we have hurt and harmed, how hurt embeds even in the smallest wounds. We give ourselves over, begin to make amends, begin to make ourselves whole. And now a Hasidic teaching. Every human being is tied to God by a rope. If the rope breaks and is later fixed with a knot, that individual is connected ever closer to God than if there never were a break in the rope. Thus, errors, mistakes, and failures have the potential of drawing us even closer to God.
Thank you, Jean. So maybe, as I did, I think in the Rosh Hashanah alternative I'd done a couple years ago, maybe we'll take just a minute where we can just reflect on some of these readings, and then if you wanted to give a personal reflection, then we'll open it up, and maybe we'll take a minute of silence just to be able to take in everything we've heard. Okay, thanks. So we have some hands raised, and I'll just go in the order that I see them. We'll start with Audrey.
So the last reading really just made a lot of sense to me. I think there are various elements of my life when I've been aware of not connecting to my spiritual side. And when I've come back, the first thing that comes to mind is actually going to college and being in my 20s and wanting a lot of freedom and a lot of opportunity to know more of the world than I was under my sheltered parents' existence. And really, I came to appreciate living in a community that was more devoted to recognizing God and being kind to each other. And so I really feel like, having gone through years of experience of living, and there were good things about it, but I do feel like I learned things about myself and about people and about what I wanted that's made it easier for me to appreciate rituals and rules and taking time to care about other people. And the other thing that it reminds me of is there's just dark times in one's life when one feels either guilt or very disconnected from God. And when you can feel some hope and light, then you don't take it for granted anymore. That's it.
Thank you. The next person I have is Maxine Cooper Brynn.
Well, I was also very touched by that, particularly when I just started smiling as I was reading it. And for me, aside from the connection to God, I see this as also from person to person, and particularly friendships, certainly, but within a marriage, when you hit those bumps in the road and that tie breaks, and that how powerful forgiveness is to create that knot and create an even stronger relationship. And that's what touched me.
Thank you. Leah.
This is going to sound repetitions. I was also moved by the last reading. Errors, mistakes, and failures have the potential of drawing us even closer to God. Depends on, of course, on how ready we are to recognize these errors and mistakes and failures, and what we do about them, the transformation that needs to take place to make that not possible.
Thank you. Next is Peter.
I was also struck by the last reading. In particular, if the rope breaks and is later fixed with a knot, that individual is connected ever closer to God than if there never were a break in the rope. I was struck by the mystery of that, and wonder what the writer meant and what's behind it. Who ties the knot? Is the knot tied by God? Is it we who tie the knot? Is the knot stronger than the intact rope because of the greater attention that we receive from God, or that we give to God? What is the meaning behind this? And without questioning everything others have said about this, that strikes me as a mystery.
Thank you. Phyllis.
The reading that you gave me happened to really resonate very much with me. And I've continued to be thinking about that. This is the one about the hand held before the eye can sort of obscure like that tall mountain right in front of you and keep us from seeing the vast radiance and secret wonders that fill the world. I thought about that more in terms of a balance and how important it is to always strive for, sometimes attain, a balance between being, yes, very fixed in taking care of what needs to be taken care of, but not forgetting about just ever so much that is much, much greater than us. And perhaps people are more aware of that now because of the pandemic, but then perhaps people are not. I don't know. For me, that eternal balancing act is a very, very important aspect of my personal struggles and sometimes achievements in life.
Thank you. I see the handlers. I'm not sure who wants to speak, but that's who's up next.
I want to speak, please. Don't start my video. I want to say first that this is the way I've envisioned a beautiful alternative service with people opening their hearts. And it is just beautifully, beautifully executed, and the text beautifully chosen. Thank you, Dr. Weinberger. But I do think the statement on forgiveness is a little bit narrow, where the writer says the person doing the forgiving isn't getting a lot of bang for their buck. The metaphor that the author used is kind of telling. It's like, I do this and I get this. I know it's only a metaphor, but to me, the forgiver has to reach a place of what spiritual generosity that is a gift to the forgiver. It's its own reward. So I just wanted to say that, and that's it. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks very much. If I can just I kind of see that and the next one about the knot, that maybe we tie a knot that maybe we're closer to the people we forgive because of that knot. So it's this, the Hasidic is about God, but it's also seems it might be to other people. So thank you, Julie.
Sure.
David.
I don't want to talk about the very wonderful readings, and they are truly wonderful. But when Peter was sharing, it struck me that all three of you who were on the video, Rabbi Steve, you, Dick, and Peter, if I take your faces and your shapes out of it, I'm left with books, hundreds and hundreds of books. And are we not the people of the book and the people of books? What are books other than shared knowledge and facts and experience and hopes and wisdom? And the parallel here to me is that I'm really, really thankful that we take time and ennoble and lift up these opportunities to share with each other our experience and our perspective and our collective wisdom in a way that's truly wonderful and special. And in that sense, I'm echoing Julie's initial comments. And it's really the presence of books in the background. And mine are downstairs, so you don't really see them right now. But I see that parallel, and I'm really appreciative of it. And thank you for helping create that space and that opportunity as well.
Thank you. Esther.
Hi, thanks. I wanted to talk about the section on forgiveness. I really appreciate the sentence that says forgiveness is not deserved by definition, because I feel like very often people who've experienced serious harm feel a lot of pressure that they're being forced to forgive. And people don't really, because of that, people don't really understand what accountability is, because they think that apologizing is enough when they do nothing to actually mend, to make amends, to mend. Now that's not saying I don't think anyone has an obligation to forgive. Saying that you don't have to forgive isn't saying you should act with malice or that the person should be punished. It's just respecting people's autonomy enough to let them deal with things how it's helpful to them. And like that gets into the difference between punishment and consequences. Punishment is the infliction of suffering, it's vengeance. Consequences might be this person not allowing this person to be in a position of power anymore, not being in a relationship with a person anymore. And that's more than okay, that's good. That's consequences. But no one should be forced to forgive, because that does a lot of harm to people who are already struggling. Yeah, that's all I got. Thanks for letting me share.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And I don't see anybody else. Have I missed anybody? Okay. Well, I appreciate really rich and thoughtful and from the heart sharings. I really do appreciate it. We'll move on with our readings, and Art Biajanti is going to do our next readings.
On Yom Kippur, as we slowly encant the rhythmic list of our regrets and misdeeds, let us designate our bodies as vehicles for change. upright, alert, and physically engaged with each gentle beat on our breast. We charge every fiber of our being to do its work, to enable us to build a more just world for the year to come. We pray that our hearts will open to the suffering we see around the world. Our minds will expand to learn about the causes of poverty and seek solutions. Our mouths will speak out against inequity and educate others. Our hands will embrace others, creating a human bond and lifting up the oppressed. Our arms will labor to build community and pursue change. Our feet will run to take action, refusing to remain still in the face of injustice. Let our prayers this high holy day season be an accounting of our potential. Let our chanting be a catalyst for the transformation that we hope to achieve in the year to come. With each prayer, we commit our bodies to teshuvah, a personal and global pursuit of justice.
Thank you. And now Art's going to continue.
Introduction to the Unatana Tokef de Kudushat Hayom. We declare the utter sanctity of this day. All religions grapple with the ultimate fact of our mortality and the mortality of everyone and everything we love. In Jewish liturgy, no other passage is as forthright as the Unatana Tokef in laying the truth before us. Its unique combination of poignancy and bluntness accounts in good measure, I believe, for its power. And it is this power that makes Unatana Tokef so fitting to the turning of the year, the period in which we confront death and dying most pointedly. With the changing of the seasons, and in the Northern Hemisphere, the waning of the light, we become especially aware of the passage of time in the natural world. So too, as we start a new year with the promise of renewal and fresh beginnings, we become more alert to the workings of time in our personal lives. Unatana Tokef brings death and loss into the forefront of our awareness, giving voice to our fears while placing our deaths in the larger context of all that lives. The recreation offered here highlights those aspects of Unatana Tokef that I believe are most useful for confronting our mortality.
Thank you. I think we're going to proceed, and I believe, Steve, you were going to chant, and then Audrey will read.
Yes, thank you. Unatana Tokef Kedushat Hayom Ki hu nora ve'ayom Ki hu nora ve'ayom Uvshofar gadol yitaka V'kol dmama daka yishama.
We declare the utter sanctity of this day, for it is an awe-filled day. A great shofar is sounded, and a voice splendor silence is heard. The voice is one's own, a reed in the chorus, a breath in the wind.
Rosh Hashanah yikatevun, yikatevun. Uvyom tzom kippur yechatemun, yechatemun.
On Rosh Hashanah, it is written, and on Yom Kippur, it is sealed. Our lives are stories inscribed in time. At the turning of the year, we look back, look ahead, see that we are always in the days between. How many will leave this life, and how many will be born into it? Who will live and who will die? Whose life will reach its natural end, and whose will be cut short? Who by water and who by fire? Who by sword and who by beast? Who by hunger and who by thirst? Who by quake and who by plague? Who by choking and who by stoning? Who will rest and who will wander? Who will be tranquil and who will be torn? Who will be at peace and who will be tormented? Who will be raised high and who will be brought low? Who will prosper and who will be impoverished?
Thank you.
Uteshuva.
Turning inward to face one's self.
Utefila.
Entering into prayer and contemplation.
Utsedaka.
Giving to the needy as justice requires.
Mavirin et roa hagzera.
These diminish the harshness of the decree.
Uteshuva.
Returning to the inner artistry that gives each life its form, seeking to become one's truest self.
Utefila.
Being alive to the unending flow within and around us, holding dear the transient beauty.
Utsedaka.
Knowing that we are, all of us, flesh and blood, and our fates are intertwined, sweet with bitter, bitter with salt, and that the fruit of kindness is kindness, and good deeds are its fulfillment.
Mavirin et roa hagzera.
We become present to the fullness of our lives and untether ourselves from the fear of what lies ahead. We begin in earth and we end in earth. We spend our lives earning our bread. We are like broken vessels, dry grass, withering blossoms, passing shadows, scattering dust, a fleeting dream. Born in nature and born by nature, we die in its lap and fold. The whole lives on, infinite in mystery, its manifestations numberless. Seeing beyond our separate deaths, we find ourselves in the greater whole, our names embedded in its names embedded in ours.
Netanetokef Kedushat Hayom.
Proclaim the powerful sanctity of this day.
Thank you. I think maybe we'll take a minute and just have a time for personal reflection and then go on from there. I'll give us a minute. Okay, and I hear that Bellamy is here, so.
Dick, I'm
great.
sorry. I'm sorry. She is here.
She is here?
Yes, I'm sorry about that.
Okay, so Bellamy will do our next reading.
But you know what? You know what? I can't spotlight her because I think she's not on video. So, but she is here.
Can she read or?
I don't know. You'll have to. I don't know. I don't see her. So.
Oh, okay.
She might be on a phone.
So.
She signed in, but her video isn't showing up.
All right. So maybe she's on a plane now. Anyway, if I could ask for a volunteer, or I'm happy to read it. If someone wants to raise their hand. Oh, okay. Julie.
Yeah. In our community, we're fortunate that most of us are not directly living with the real costs of coronavirus. Many of us are able to work quite comfortably from home. Some are retired and don't have to worry about working, but everyone is impacted by the coronavirus, at least psychologically. Our world has changed. Our routines are completely disrupted. Simple pleasures we took for granted, like having friends over for Shabbat dinner or going out to a restaurant, are denied us, and that takes a toll. What about our souls? How do we nourish our souls, which is probably the real key to maintaining one's mental health in a difficult time? It's by cultivating the right attitude, an attitude of tragic optimism. Tragic optimism is a term coined by the famous psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, Viktor Frankl, in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. It is also the quintessential Jewish response to adversity. Do you want me to go on?
Yes, please.
Oh, thank you. As Frankl describes it, tragic optimism is an optimism in the face of tragedy that allows for turning suffering into a human achievement and accomplishment, deriving from guilt the opportunity to change oneself for the better, and deriving from life's transitoriness an incentive to take responsible action. What keeps people going in trying times isn't denying the tragedy of the situation or finding a way to be happy. It's about finding meaning. And meaning in context is not about understating the ultimate meaning of life. It's about having meaning in your day, doing something you perceive as useful. Need to read more?
One more. There's a
Sure,
one more.
Sure. Frankl wrote his book after surviving the horrors of Auschwitz and other concentration camps. He found that even in the most dire of circumstances, there are ways to find meaning, often by performing acts of service for other people.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's a hard lesson to learn at any age. We plan, we hope, we strive, and we expect. The old saying that humans make plans and God laughs is often mentioned when personal plans go awry. But never have we felt so keenly as a community. So where do I find myself turning to so as to give words to this relief in my soul? I find myself saying the ancient prayer of Shehechianu. This is by Lisa Farber. As I slowly inch back into the world, blessed are you, Lord of the universe, who has granted us life, sustained us, and enabled us to reach this season. These words, which are usually reserved for a festival or for doing something for the first time, encapsulate for me the joy, the wonder, and the recognition that life is filled with moments that are all gifts. The newness of our lives as we return to them is deserving of a Shehechianu. For a while there, we thought that we were almost guaranteed it all so that we could save our Shehechianu for certain special events and prescribed moments. But I think its events have shown otherwise. So I turn to this prayer. I hope it's okay to be reciting these words at my own discretion. Somehow, I don't see how it can be wrong to give thanks and acknowledgement to God for being able to once again enjoy all the bits and pieces, moments, and events that we have missed during these times, to have been given life and to be sustained to see this moment. After all, if we've learned anything, is that nothing is promised to us. So we'll take a minute again, just for some silent reflection. And then if there are others that want to share, please do so please designate by raising your hand in Zoom, and we'll get you after just a minute. Okay, I see Audrey.
I hope I don't reverberate. A lot of what was said really touched me. I don't know if anyone notices, but there are times in services that I actually cry and I have to step away for a Kleenex. And it's because I let myself feel, which quite honestly, it says a lot to be in a community and let myself be open to what I feel. And it's something I value. Our lives between the climate change, having been in the Dismantling Racism series, which really made me very aware, much more aware than even before, of all the pain of people who have been discriminated against. It's kind of overwhelming. And the question is, once you're open to knowing things and feeling things, how do you actually decide what to do? And so one thing is, in the midst of COVID, I have more routinely started saying a blessing before I eat. And it's one way for me to acknowledge a simple part of my life that not everyone can take for granted. and also to slow down and appreciate. For me, every summer it's fruit. But it's not easy in the midst of everything that's going on with the climate and so many people suffering in the world to stay connected and to really figure out how to respond and not to shut down one's heart. So I would just say the last readings have been very moving.
Thank you. Maxine?
So Monday is my birthday, and I am turning 73. Thanks. So the part that I'm trying to embrace was the piece that said, we begin in earth and we end in earth. We spend our lives earning our bread. The piece that struck me at this point when I look in the mirror is we are like broken vessels, dry grass, withering blossoms, passing shadows, scattering dust, a fleeting dream. And it's hard. The older you get, the more you see your body withering and scattering. So I'm trying to embrace that at this time and find it what nature wants from us. And so I'm giving back that which I've held on to for 73 years and trying to embrace the withering and drying part. So
Thank you. Peter?
My late Uncle Isaac, who was a physician, in his later years, kept trying to communicate one message to me. And the message was simple. It was, do it now. Do it now. He lived a long, fruitful, complicated life, but he clearly had regrets. And he clearly was saying, take advantage of life as you can. And I'm struck by the readings, how much and how central a conflict in life it is for us to balance living in the present with living in the future. And there was a mention of things foregone or prevented by COVID. We had 2 major family celebrations, major trips, specifically planned, that have been taken away from us by hurricanes first, and specific places to go that were destroyed and have not been rebuilt yet and may never be, that meant a lot to us, and a celebration of my son's first 50th birthday, which is going to bring us all together, and it's now been postponed for 2 years. And yet you can't live in the present entirely. God forbid we live in the past too much. That's a lesson that my own family life has taught me. But the balance between the present and the future is really, really, really hard. And that's a lesson that I think these readings emphasize to me.
Thank you. Thank you. Alan?
Yeah, I would like to echo what Maxine said, and I was also moved by the same passage that she was, but I wanted to go on a little further because, and first of all, I also want to say that I really appreciate this service. I think these readings are just so thoughtful, and I really, really appreciate them. So what moved me was the sense that, yes, we have to confront our own mortality, but on page 8, I love the passage that talks about the mystery, the infinite. And it goes on to say, seeing beyond our separate deaths, we find ourselves in the greater whole, our lives embedded in its names embedded in ours. And I love the mystery of this. I love, that in dealing with our own mortality, we also have to confront our own immortality, that we currently are part of the one, and after we pass, we remain to be part of the one. And that reading really takes us there, and I love that. So thank you.
Thank you. Mimi?
First of all, I've been loving all the writing in the service. I want to talk though about the idea of a Shechianu, for how much more I appreciate things that just seem normal that I took for granted before since the pandemic. And one event was that there was outside the Transformer station on the west side, a free concert a few weeks ago with these fantastic 11-member mambo band. And there were all these people out, and there was a beautiful art exhibit that people could go into. And of course, you know, people were wearing masks when they went inside, but not necessarily outside. And it was just such a joy to be in a group of people, looking at people dancing, listening to music on a beautiful night. And I just felt so blessed, you know, for that moment. And, you know, and thankful for science and medicine and vaccines, and that that we could all be together. And I might have just taken it for granted before, you know, enjoyed it, but taken it for granted, but it just really felt like a magical night. And this reading really kind of highlighted that for me. So thank you.
Thank you. Rabbi Steve?
Thank you, Dick. I also want to appreciate the effort that you put into creating this thoughtful and moving service, and the presence that you have brought to facilitating it, and making space at what feels like the exact right moment to give us a little bit more time to reflect. And so just tremendous gratitude and appreciation for your leadership today. I wanted to say first, in response to Peter's comment from the first series of sharing, the rope question and the closeness question, it occurred to me that Hasidic story is kind of a retelling of a rabbinic kind of quasi-legal statement that says that the person who has, quote unquote, sinned and repented is at a higher level than a person who has never sinned. And it's an interesting, you know, I think there's probably a lot to talk about. It feels like a parallel kind of teaching. And I'll just whatever off the top of my head, I'll take a stab that, excuse me, a person who has kind of traveled that road of veering away somehow has a deeper understanding, perhaps, of life, which is not to say that, you know, the danger is, you know, are we all supposed to go off and, you know, go off the path so that we can come back? But that is a very ancient teaching in our tradition. I believe it says that a person who is a Baal Teshuvah or a Baalat Teshuvah, who has embraced return, in the place where that person stands, the person who has never gone away cannot stand. So be that as it may, I just was moved to share that. And the last thing is just really being struck both by the combination of the Lisa Farber reading on Shehechianu in this section and the reading that Phyllis did in the first section about how the hand that hides the eye, wait a minute, I'm sorry, just as the hand held before the eye hides the tallest mountain, so the routine of life can keep us from seeing the vast radiance and secrets of which the world is filled. So I think Lisa Farber is riffing on that teaching, that first teaching, and it is the case that if it were possible to say a Shehechianu literally at every moment, it would be the right thing to do, because every moment is a gift, whether we are in a pandemic or past a pandemic. And, you know, I know that in many traditions, including Judaism, but very much so in the Buddhist tradition, that is one of the ways that people use the process of breathing, is to kind of reconnect in a moment-to-moment way with that sense of gratitude and the realization of the giftedness of that moment. So thank you for pulling all of this together for us today.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. I think Benjamin Barnett wanted to say something. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. I just wanted to say that I don't always connect so strongly with a tiny little phrase as I did from something you said at the end of your reading on the Shehechianu, which is that nothing is promised. And I think if there's been one difficult, challenging, ongoing lesson of the last few years of time in our collective history as humans on the planet, it's that none of our expectations have been promised by anyone to us, right? We expect continuity of experience, that the things that have happened will continue to happen, and the gifts that we have received unthinkingly will continue to shower on us, and that habits will continue to be supportable. And I know that the High Holy Days are replete with that message, but somehow just the simple idea that nothing is promised really struck a chord with me this year. So thank you for bringing that reading to the alternative service.
Well, just as Untitled Chapter reminds us that we don't have unlimited time, we do have one more hand raised, and that's Leah. I think we'll do one more, and then we'll finish. Leah?
Just a very brief and heartfelt thank you.
It's really been my pleasure. So thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm going to make a few comments, and then we'll read the final, the meditation. I'll read the meditation. We've all had quite a year and a half filled with triumphs and tragedies, companionship and loneliness, courage and cowering, strength and lack of will. Don and I have experienced, excuse me, Don and I have experienced the birth of our first grandson, the loss of my mother, and other life events, not so different from what you have all experienced. I found myself struggling with losing empathy and becoming impatient at those who refuse to accept science, at the willful neglect of our community and environment, and then at myself for failing to live up to personal standards, even if in exhaustion or frustration. This is a time for us to reckon with how we might improve, not by being better, but how we might approach our community, our country, our world, and our friends, and those with whom we do not get along, in a new and inspired way. And how we might approach ourselves, even as we reckon with our mistakes and frailties, with the kindness and compassion we strive to offer to others. I've always found Havdalah service an inspiring and hopeful service. This ritual presents a unique vision of separateness and division, as well as unity to me. The beautiful braided candle, the spice box, the wine, these confront our senses, reminding us to be present, to experience the wonder of life, while symbolizing how each day, each week, each year presents to us opportunity for newness, experiences, growth, inspiration. Let us remember this. Let us set up Havdalah services or rituals when we need them, to experience fresh ideas, roles, attitudes, openness, to separate the past, even as we carry it with us to the future, with hope and some daring. I'll just read the meditation. I long to change the world, but I rarely appreciate things as they are. I know how to give, but I don't always know how to receive. I know how to keep busy, but I don't know how to be still. I yearn to succeed, but I often forget what is truly important. Teach me, God, to slow down. May my resting revive me. May it lead me to wisdom, to holiness, to peace, and to you.
Yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai lai ya la lai 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 la 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 lai yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai lai ya la lai 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 la 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 lai ya la 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 ya la ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 la. We now turn to Co-President Lila Hanft for some words of welcome and transition.
Hi, thanks, Dick. This was a really beautiful and rich and moving service. I think one thing I love about the alternative service is the unscripted moments and the chance to hear the thoughts of other people as they kind of percolate through the same readings you're listening to. And those moments are always really personal and poignant, and you can really build connections with one another, despite the fact that we're on Zoom, and I really appreciate that. So thanks to all the readers today and to everyone who shared their voices. And big thanks to our Zoom hosts, Barb Truitt, Robin Holtzman, and Rachel Williams. At this point, we'll say a temporary goodbye to those who are joining us via live stream, and we hope you'll return to the HaLev website for the live stream of Yizkor and Yila beginning at 5:30. If you're participating on Zoom, you can remain with us for the Avodah service at now. And just a reminder that if you plan to attend Mindful Jewish Practice at 1:45, it's being hosted on Nancy Rubel's Zoom. So you'll need to open up the link you received in the email yesterday. And then you return to this channel for the rest of our programming. Thanks to everyone for being here for this